Hey everybody, we're live again. We've got another great episode of By the Numbers. Today's guest is Anthony Hall. He's a big fan of the show. I've been hanging out with and chatting over the ocean with Anthony for a couple years now. Really inspired by his journey of becoming a wedding photographer, part-time first, and then recently making the leap to full-time as a wedding photographer. We're gonna really go deep on really how Anthony, the moment that really changed his career forever. And it's connected to one of his really cool tactics he uses to really help his clients get in touch with their emotion and how that has made an impact on him, how that impact really makes a difference for his clients and, of course, his sales. We're going to run through his numbers, of course, and then we'll also dig deep. In the pre-call, we were talking about some of how he's pretty much more than doubled his average sale over the last 3 years. One of the things he's doing is automations now that he's full-time. He asked me to kind of workshop live his existing workflow that's really helping him increase his sales. And I'm going to help him take the existing thing. We're going to learn what that is. And I'm going to give him some live coaching on how to make his kind of pricing response automations even better with all the different tools that he's using. All right, Anthony, welcome to the show, man. Thanks so much for being here.
Hey, Nate. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. I'm so excited to have more photographers, a wide range of photographers from all over the world, from all backgrounds, from different niches, whatever it is. And I think that we can all relate. I want to bring photographers who have been in the industry for 20 years, some that have been for 2. And Anthony, you've been doing this for about 7 years, is that right?
Yeah, 7 years on and off.
Awesome. So we're going to dig into all of his numbers here in a second. Let's play the intro and dive into getting to know Anthony. All right, here we go. So let's jump in to the quick format questions we ask everybody here on the show. Anthony, how long have you been in business?
7 years.
7 years, and it was how long part-time and how long full-time?
7 months. 7 months full-time, so relatively new full-time.
Congratulations, dude. That's awesome. I can't wait to learn more about that transition. And then right now, how many sessions did do you have? Let's see. Let's do how many sessions did you shoot for 2018?
So 2018 was 24 weddings.
Yep. And how many do you have booked already for 2019?
2019 is 36.
Congratulations, dude. That's awesome. And now, what is your average sale per client right now?
£2,300 now.
That is so cool. So in the pre-show, we talked about, let's go to there first. Back in 2016, your average sale was what?
£780.
So you've gone in the last 3 years from 780 to 2,200?
£2,300.
2,300.
Yep.
Dude, that is so awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks.
We'll talk about, there's a lot that goes into that, like building your confidence, knowing you're worth it, getting your work better, getting all of your things in the different parts of your business better, how you talk about your sales. We're going to dig into some of those things in a minute. But let's start with just this moment where you kind of decided you wanted to be a pro. You want to be a professional photographer.
Yeah, so I mean, I'd always loved photography. It was something that I always was passionate about. But I suppose it really started about 7 years ago. A friend of mine who couldn't afford a wedding photographer spoke to me, and I photographed their wedding, she asked me to photograph their wedding. I photographed their wedding, and the realization of me wanting to be a full-time photographer, or have the feeling when I handed the CD over and they watched the first slideshow back 7 years ago, that was the inspiring thing that I knew from.
So walk me through. I want to pull this story apart. So how did you make the slideshow?
So it was on Apple's
Yeah.
whatever the
Something super
movie
simple. Like,
maker.
yep,
Yeah,
totally.
I
Okay.
can't even remember what it was called. It was like a movie maker. It came with pre-made templates.
Yep.
I don't even think it exists anymore.
Yeah.
And it
You
literally, I mean, I don't know. It came with the very first Mac that I bought. I didn't know what I was doing.
the simple. You just chose like a nice song to go with it, and
Yeah,
it's just a bunch of
it came
stills.
with pre-songs. It came with a song, actually part of the template. Um, Honestly, I didn't know what I was doing. I made a slideshow, then went around to their house, put it on their television, put the DVD in the TV, or in the DVD player. I don't even think people have DVD players nowadays. Um, and put it in the DVD player and sat back and watched. It was nervous excitement, but it was inspiring at the same time. And watching Hannah and Dave, who were my first ever wedding clients, sit there, and Hannah broke down crying. She went from not having a wedding photographer to having what she considered the best wedding photos that she'd ever seen, and having that feeling and knowing full well that I wanted that feeling over and over and over again. It was that was the bit that truly made my mind up that I really wanted to be a wedding photographer
You were
from
hooked right there. Yeah.
I was hooked. It was like an adrenaline rush for me.
Hmm.
It was the most amazing inspirational feeling that I'd ever had in terms of, work and career and everything else. And I just wanted more. I couldn't get enough of it. So I decided that that was the moment that I wanted to do it full time.
Congratulations. Thank you for sharing that. I love going back to the roots of what those moments. I think it's easy to forget some of those.
Sure.
As I shared with Anthony, we're talking. I saw Brene Brown's Netflix special last week, and it's like all I'm talking about. I went to a couple, met friends for beers on Friday. My wife had some friends over at the house on Saturday, and then like everybody who's coming, I'm around the last 5 days. I'm talking about this Netflix special. I've been a fan of Brene Brown's for a while, but never gotten through any of her books. And for those of you that it's hard to make time to read a whole book, especially nonfiction. I love quick talks. Like her Netflix,
Sure.
her TED Talk is one of the most popular TED Talks from a while back, but now on Netflix it's 1 hour. Really, she's an amazing storyteller. I could do a whole episode on this talk, but the point that she's getting across is about the importance of being vulnerable. So
Yeah.
bringing this all
Massive.
back to your story, and when we're first there, I don't think that there is much more vulnerable than being an entrepreneur, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And connecting, which makes it even more so, is being an entrepreneur in a creative industry where your art is part of your business. And you're saying, I'm good enough. This is my art. I do this. I'm good enough to do this for you. And here's how much I charge for it.
Sure.
It's terribly vulnerable. We sometimes, the longer as the years go by, we start to kind of numb ourselves from that enormous risk. Every day, every time you go to a wedding, every time you do a sales session, every time you go to a lunch meeting or send an email or make a video, you're putting yourself out there.
Absolutely.
And sometimes the more success we have, the harder it is to go back to that original moment, those original moments of our most kind of vulnerable.
I think
Um,
I think the success sort of camouflage it a little bit.
mhm,
It's sort of the vulnerability is the bit that we all started because of
mhm.
it's showing our work and getting that appreciation for that work and saying this is what I do. Having somebody like your work, that's an incredibly scary thing. And I think the busier you become, the more successful you become. I think that sort of it sort of overshadows the vulnerability a little bit. You start to take things a little bit for granted. So, but having that vulnerability, I think that's the thing that strives us forward. that nervous feeling, that inspirational feeling that you get of that because of that vulnerability, that pushes
Totally.
you so much further.
So as I was growing my photography business years ago, um, that was my big moment too. It started with friends and family
Sure.
of of delivering whether it was an album or a slideshow, and being there
Right.
in person like that.
Right. Yeah.
Those are moments I'll never forget. That was like that,
Absolutely.
and it would like fill me up with motivation to keep pushing through, to keep trying to find more clients because I wanted to create that experience not only
Sure.
for myself, but I wanted to give that experience to more people. But as I got busier, I started delivering the slideshow and the images um, remotely, where I
Right.
wasn't taking the time to go be there with them because it felt awkward, right? I was afraid to
Right.
like ask them to schedule another meeting and do that. What over the last 7 years? What's that look like for you? Do you do a reveal in person, or are you delivering all of the first pictures remotely?
So the first thing that one of the sales, and I think we're going to cover it in a little bit. So I do a slideshow at a wedding event. So that's the first initial. I mean, everybody's on edge. The emotions all flowing from the wedding anyway. So actually doing some kind of reveal at the wedding,
Oh, so
that's
great.
that's incredible because you see the emotion on their face, which then drives you further, and you want to do more. Um, I mean, I could talk about a recent wedding that I photographed. I Same day event slideshows was something that I was told that you should do. It's an incredible thing. So during wedding breakfast, I'll disappear. I'll edit sort of 50 or 60 photos, and then put that onto a slideshow. And a recent wedding on a Saturday,
Yep.
I did one of these slideshows. But previous, I send a questionnaire out to my clients, get some details from them, people that might not be at the wedding, or certain songs that they kind of like, or things like that. And the wedding on Saturday, I realized that there was an auntie that couldn't make the wedding. She was in New Zealand. Her stepdaughter was pregnant, literally about to give birth this week. And so I'd arranged it with the best man to see if we could get her on FaceTime, or Skype or something, see if we could get her in person. And we managed it. So I got the best man to speak to the bride with the phone and say, "Oh, somebody's calling." The bride had no idea that it was her auntie. We then placed the phone in her hand. The shock of having a FaceTime call with her auntie, and then I pushed play on my computer, which was attached to a TV. I'd added music to it, which was some of their favorite songs, or some songs. Um, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. I was crying, the bride was crying, the best man was crying, the groom was crying, the barmaids were crying, the staff were crying, everybody, the emotion. But that vulnerability of putting your photos and seeing the emotion, that's the thing that drives me on to do my weddings next week, and the week after that, and the week after that. It's an incredible feeling, and it's an incredible thing, and it's such a great sales technique as well. If you can edit a few photos at wedding, add some songs, Premiere Pro, or
Yeah.
some kind of, even iTunes Movie Maker, or whatever it
Right.
was
It's just
called back
something super
7 years
simple.
ago.
Yeah, right. It's not about the technology. There's enough tools
No,
out there to make it quick and easy.
absolutely.
It's doing the legwork, doing the research up front like that, trusting in your ability to get good shots in camera,
Sure.
like a very streamlined editing process, so you
Yep.
can quick get this done. But it's vulnerable to to rely on setting that up into your whole day of the wedding, where you're gonna like all of the eyes are gonna be on you. Like you just
Absolutely.
did not. You're not only doing a reveal to your clients, who are of course gonna be like excited, but you're showing all of your work to a whole room of people.
Of course.
That is like the pinnacle of vulnerability, and it creates this amazing experience where now when somebody in that audience is thinking, which wedding photographer are they going to hire?
Absolutely.
Do I want somebody that just delivers pictures or somebody that that
Delivers an
created
experience.
the most moving, one of the most moving moments of the day was
Yeah,
because of
absolutely.
you.
Absolutely. It's the difference between delivering photography and delivering an experience. And
Yeah,
an experience will always outwin against photographs. If you can
totally.
make people emotional like that, you're gonna win regardless of whether you charge £100 or £5,000.
Yeah.
You're always gonna win when something like that. In actual fact, just to top that story off, there was a CEO of a quite a large company in the UK at that wedding, and they're paying me now to go and teach that technique to their marketing department to see if they can replicate something because they'd never seen anything like it before. Um,
Mhm.
and so that's potentially now more not wedding work but commercial work and a different avenue for me to go down and more clients.
Yeah, I think it just it's like we're all so starved. We numb ourselves from like the ups and downs of life and taking risks. But when we see it, when we see that authenticity and we see other people really bearing their heart and soul,
Sure.
we and just creating a really meaningful moment, we are all drawn to it. Like our biology, we
Absolutely.
are drawn to it. That is so phenomenal. Congrats on that story. That's really cool.
Thank
All
you.
right. Okay, so that was just like the icing on the cake. Was doing the
Yep.
setting up the call with the auntie,
Sure.
just making that moment even more cool and special, and just being creative about it. But as a normal wedding, I want to know a little bit of the logistics here. You're taking what images are you making the slideshow out of? Is it just like the getting ready pictures, and do you do like any
Uh, so
portraits together, or?
because I'm not sure in the US, but here in the UK, you tend to have morning and evening guests. There's usually a part in between.
Oh wow.
Um, so I the way I sell it. Logistically, first of all, what I'll usually do first thing in the morning, I'll set my camera to have take raw and medium-sized JPEGs.
Yep.
Medium-sized JPEGs are ridiculously quick in Lightroom. If you've got a decent computer, they're fantastically quick. I'm not changing skies or massively creating
Got it. Yeah, yeah,
sort of
yeah.
like
Yep.
massive edits. It's
So you
it's
simplify.
general
So
color
you
correction.
simplify the workflow on the tech side, and then
Absolutely.
you're. So in the UK, they have like, is it the ceremony? Are you getting ceremony images also, or
So
no?
yeah, bride prep first thing in the morning. I try and make it funny. I don't want it not funny, but I want some of the funny images of
Yep.
say the bridesmaids drinking champagne, or try and see how many I can get in a bathtub, or something like that. A little bit funny to start with
Yeah.
because again, it's that vulnerability thing. People seeing themselves on camera on a screen in front of all of those people. I don't want those people to feel silly but it's adding a little bit of comedy to the emotion.
Hmm.
And then I'll take some of the ceremony photos. Obviously, the bride's usually crying or the grooms are crying, so that then adds to the emotion.
Hmm.
And I'll usually do it up until just after the ceremony.
Yep.
And then I'll add it sort of, as I say, about 60 images. I'll have already pre-made a template in Premiere Pro, so I'll have added a wedding title. As I say, I've taken some of the style of music that they like, so
Yep.
I'll have already downloaded those. They'll have been ready to go. Edit, color correct some of the images, add those into Premiere Pro. It's actually a ridiculously quick job if you
Yeah,
know
yeah,
what
yeah.
you're doing and you
Totally.
pre.
You've polished this. People can use any Moto. They can use any kind of
Absolutely.
slideshow, whatever. So
Yeah.
what's the benchmark? Like, what does it have to fit in so you can disappear? You've got your 60 images of whatever it
Yep.
might be from the
Yep.
first part of the day. When you go to disappear, how much time do you need with you and your computer?
So I can get one done in about 40 minutes. It just depends on how many images. The hardest part for me is actually selecting those images that I think
Yeah.
will work.
Yeah.
I started by adding far too many images, and the
Yep.
slideshow became 15, 20 minutes. And by that time, people have tuned out.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is definitely a time where less is more. I'd rather show 5 minutes of amazing emotional images than 15 minutes worth of wedding flowers, or not saying
Yep.
that wedding flowers aren't
Yeah.
interesting, but
So
I'd
smart. So
rather
smart.
see
Yeah.
grandmas, or the groom crying at the ceremony, or that kind of thing. Um, so yeah, I can get one done in about sort of 30, 40 minutes. I
Yep.
usually take myself off during the wedding breakfast. So when they're eating their lunch or their food, I'll go off into another part of the building, the part of the venue. I'll
Yeah.
sit down, coffee, and then I'll just have the computer, and I'll get my Premiere Pro
Knock it out. That's so
slideshow
cool.
done.
I've heard people who work with second shooters who
Sure.
will can hand off
Yeah.
a memory card at a certain time, whatever time makes sense in the so that they can start with their color correcting,
Sure.
doing some of the prep work, doing some of the culling. Like, hey, here's the criteria. We're looking for emotional images, not details, not whatever. Like, that's for a different moment. We want to tell a story of these people and the experiences they're having today.
Absolutely.
Very cool. And then as you get better at it, you can even start adding in some audio,
Of course.
maybe some video clips from the like a lot of the what's the classic piece that a lot of people put in the wedding videos is the reading of the love note to each other or something
Yeah.
like that.
Absolutely. So I've just recently started, and again, it's a little, because you're putting yourself out there. You're doing all of this work, and if it doesn't work, and you've promised it to the client, and it doesn't look good,
Yep.
then it can go a little bit wrong. And to be perfectly honest, when I first started them, it did take me a long time to get these slideshows done.
Yeah.
Over a period of a couple of years, I've sort of perfected it. And as long as you get the images, the titles on Premiere Pro or whatever you're using,
Yeah.
the songs downloaded, everything into one folder, ready to
Ready to
go,
go.
add
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. Yeah.
It takes no time at all. And then the
So.
beauty of it is,
Yep.
the beauty of it is you can add it to YouTube then, or Vimeo, or another uploading software. That then can go to Sticky Folios, which I've then used for a wedding sort of website.
Yep.
And then I can then add that to other things, and then the venues use them. So you're effectively using networking, and all you've done is created a slideshow.
So great. Yeah, there's all kinds of awesome value to do it. So to review, guys, I love having people on like this who are using tactics that work, and you get to so it takes the guesswork out. Like, this is obviously going to be a strategy that works, and by learning from Anthony's mistakes over the last several years, you can
Plenty of
hit
them.
you can hit the ground running. So to review, it's about emotional images, less is more. Keep the finished product under 5 minutes. Have all of your prep work done, your templates. I think picking the images, picking the song, those time and time again, that is the hardest part of this project. And so if you already have it set and done, you can get this whole thing done in less than 45 minutes.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, let's move on to this next strategy. We love talking numbers. So, of course, a lot of variables have helped you take your sales average from less than 800 quid to 23
23. Yeah.
23 now. Okay.
23 now.
So one of the big things you've talked about helping there is your online pricing guide workflow.
Absolutely.
So let's talk through baby step. Even before you had this, what were you doing? How were people getting your pricing?
So it used to be a long time ago. It used to be a PDF. I think everyone starts with a PDF. It's the simplest thing to do.
Right.
But a PDF obviously is a bit long-winded. It doesn't fill with information. Well, you can fill it with too much information, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
So people would get in touch and say, "Can I have your pricing guide or any kind of details?" And I'd send them a PDF. And that involves people reading a huge amount of information, and they'd get bored. And in actual fact, I recently, a couple of months ago, had an email off a potential bride saying, I've got 17 PDF forms to read through. I'm booking you because yours is on a website. I can literally click the link, go to the go to the price guide. I can read what you offer. Everything's explained, and all I've got to do is reply to you. That's simple. I don't have to read 3 pages of PDF, 5 pages of PDF. I think she actually said, we had a coffee meeting about a month ago. So a month after she'd initially booked or spoke to me, we went for a coffee meeting, local Starbucks, and she said that she had a PDF that was 7 pages long, with I think she's 17 different sort of packages, and it completely confused her. She had no idea whether she was coming or going, and she said with mine it was literally a link, click on it, and everything's there, ready to read and understand. And she booked. She booked a month later. So pricing guides are ridiculously useful.
Wow. That's such a great story, man. I just had to shut up and let you go there. That was, you've got these stories that are just so, like, I want everybody to hear this. Like, it's so practical. You have a client I love it when you have the conversation with existing clients about
Yep.
this process, right? What's going through their mind. I think when you can befriend your potential clients this way, so that they are talking about, and you can empathize that this isn't just about like the pictures or what they want. It's about helping them make a really difficult decision and sift through so many different options, so much information. And when you can say, look, I know this is hard, you're probably looking at a bunch of other photographers right now, they feel comfortable to share this kind of story with you. So they've got 17 PDFs to look through. I chose you because your pricing was on a website and it was simple
Yeah.
and easy to understand.
It was because it was simple. People are like water. They'll go through the or travel through the least resistance. So they don't want to fight a PDF, or they don't want to read a PDF. People nowadays don't have time to go through all of this literature that people are sending them. Clicking on a website, clicking on a link that they can do on a mobile phone in a 15-minute lunch hour, made her decide to book me. They have booked the signature collection. They've booked the top collection, which is £4,000. So me sending them a link to a website made me £4,000 just because of the access to that price guide. And it was simple. Mm-hmm. That's the key. Simple works.
Mm-hmm. So great. So that's some of the process. We're going to talk about your existing setup. So
sure.
Overall, you went from PDF, like so many people do, to one-off stuff, and people wouldn't reply. Your sales just weren't. Not only were not booking as many as you'd like, but people. Did it seem like people weren't even taking the time to read the PDF?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing. I don't. There's no way of telling whether they read the PDF or not, but I got the general impression that the PDF or any PDF just wasn't working. It was useless. And I'd been sent information via different companies via PDF, and I think if you asked yourself, how many PDFs have you actually read, downloaded, and just forgotten about, or because they're so long-winded, or just because you don't really have the time to read them. Click on a link to find out the collection, the price, and how to book or how to get in touch. That's the magic. That's this special sauce, I suppose, that you'd want.
I love it. Really good story. So there's to break it down. This is why we've designed the online pricing guide. So there's technical reasons, and we're going to go into some others in a minute. But just like a PDF is typically not optimized for mobile. It's slow to download. It's hard to read, hard to navigate, and it's so many it's good to have. I think it's just something. It's a good document where a lot of photographers have this document pre-designed from some Photoshop InDesign template, right?
Sure.
And I think they're wonderful. They all have been designed to use in person, to print a magazine, to print a
Absolutely.
guide, something they can take home and they can touch and they can look at. But how many times have we made this, as humans, made this mistake where we take something that was designed and meant for the tangible world and we just put it online and not, and
Yeah.
we don't make any changes, right? It's just not going to work.
I, one of the
Go
things
ahead.
that I do, I'll take a PD. Well, it's not a PDF. It's as you say, it's an InDesign pricing guide. I'll actually take that to a meeting so that they can take something home. That it lives on their worktop or lives on their fridge via a magnet or whatever. They then can have something to touch. It's
Yep.
tactile. It's there.
Yep.
But initially, they don't want to read. Potential clients don't want to read 3 or 4 pages of a pricing guide. They look
At
pretty.
the right time, they might. I think it's all about putting the right
Absolutely.
thing, the right step at the right time. So we're going to talk
Absolutely.
now. We'll,
Yeah.
we'll go a little bit more into detail of the system that Anthony has, but then I'm going to workshop with him how he can take it even farther. We're going to use the analogy of dating, because it's been used so many times in marketing where you have to let your clients get to know you first before you ask them to marry you.
Sure.
Or to book with you, right? So there's several dates that you need to go on with your potential clients before they choose you. So date one is your website. How do
Yep.
you turn more strangers on your website into leads, into inquiries? And that is what is on your website needs to all be about date one. You need to be
Yep.
acting as if you would on a first date. Too many photographers have asked way too many things on their contact form, which we'll get to. I think asking more questions is the right thing. Eventually, you learn more about them, but you don't ask for phone number, for budget, for venue, for date on the first date, right? You first just say, hey, give us your email address, and I'll send you a pricing guide and these tips about how to choose a wedding photographer or whatever it
Sure.
might be, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so that's
absolutely.
first date. And then second date, you immediately send them the thing they're looking for, not a PDF download, but a online pricing guide, what's on your online pricing guide? What are you including there?
So on my online pricing guide is just a short, detailed sort of description of what I offer. So bullet points, the collections. So I have 3 collections. I keep it really simple. Each one has a different bullet points explaining what goes into that. Then I also include, I think it's 6 different products that I sell eventually. Which potential upgrades, and I actually think that's the thing that has made my sort of the money that comes in, and I think that's why the increase, because people are aware of what I offer, so subconsciously they automatically know that, oh, he sells acrylic prints, or he sells album upgrades, or he sells but I just keep it simple. There's no hard sell. It's not buy me, or look at this. It's just there in the background, subconscious. All I want is them to realize what I offer, and just keep it simple. You can
So
get
smart.
complicated in the second or third date. You don't
Yeah,
need to.
right?
Yeah.
And I think there's a couple of things I want to pull out here, guys, is a lot of people, even if you have more than 3 packages, don't put them on this is the second date, right? They've only known you for maybe 5 minutes. They've looked at a little bit of your work. They entered their email address. You don't want to overwhelm them with too much information. Just the basics. The takeaway is that you've got packages that
Yep.
help them bundle and save time and save money, right? That's the gist. You don't need to go into, it includes this number of prints and sizes and materials. None of that detail is needed on the second date. They'll want to learn more about that later, once they've maybe chosen, when they meet you in person or they look at stuff in person. But this second date link is just a teaser of what you do. And I love it. You said you're planting the seed of there's just a handful of your best products of like, hey, this is one of the things that I help my clients do. And
Absolutely.
really good like mock-up images of
Sure.
not just digitals, but like the actual images of these products so they get an
Sure.
idea of why they're better, different than
Yeah.
what they could get other places. Okay. So in the pre-show, Anthony also shared that setup right now has been working great. Now that you've also gone full time, one of the bigger challenges you shared is managing all of the things of being a business. Now that your volume has increased, there's a lot more admin stuff to work, and automations are important.
Yeah.
So you're using Tave, and
I use Tave.
Currently, you're taking leads that you capture in sticky email, and what are you doing with those, and how are you getting them in Tave?
So what happens is usually when a lead comes in through a sticky email, I'll then cut and copy the email address into Tave. Obviously, you're only capturing the email address. You don't know anything about them really, apart from that. That's then cut and copied into Tave. The sequence is run through a sticky email. So after, depending on the sequence that they've clicked onto, then that's then when Tave kicks in, sort of maybe 10 or 12 days, depending on which one. They'll then get an email from Tave or through me from Tave as opposed to sticky emails.
Yeah. Okay. So I think this is a good example, guys, of getting stuff live first is so much better. Like that you just have even though there's some manual stuff in there, that's okay. Software is not magical. When you have this manual required step in your automations, it's not the end of the world because it's up and running and it's working, right? We can already hear the differences that this existing system has made for Anthony's business. So now we're going to take it a step farther. So to make it more automated and more personal, there was one more piece I'm starting to forget. I was going to share with you how to streamline and hand off from sticky email and also then into Tave. But what was the last piece we were going to workshop live? Do you remember? I knew I was going to write a note. Pricing. It's like Calendly.
Yeah, it's adding. I think it was adding a Calendly sort of like to.
Oh, I know what it was. It was then all the way to right now. You're offering a Calendly link to an in-person. Do you want to do a Calendly link to okay, I remember.
So FaceTime. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so to finish out this workflow where it currently is, then inside of Tave, you've got some emails that invite them to schedule a face-to-face meeting with you via a dedicated Calendly link you've set up. Then that's a face-to-face meeting, right?
Yeah.
Just offhand, do you know what percentage of people that are getting into Tave are scheduling an in-person meeting with you? Do you have is it 1 in 10? Is it 5 out of 10? What's your ballpark?
I think it's 5 out of 5. It's probably near a 5 in 10 without actually going into it. I think it's probably
okay, cool.
Yeah, I think it's 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Or half.
Okay, and then let's follow it all the way through. Of your meetings, how many people are showing up, and then out of those 5 people that schedule the call with you, is pretty much everybody showing up to the in-person meeting?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, everybody shows up. So we arrange something, whether it's round at their house or a coffee shop, or I don't have an office as yet.
That's fine.
So it's round at their house usually, or a coffee shop, depending on whatever they feel.
What I want people to be listening for when I ask these questions, guys, is each baby step is like the next date, and it's a conversion rate. When people say the conversion rate, they could be meaning a lot of different things. Typically, it's like the broadest one. That's what we care about is strangers on your website to booked client. Typically, for every 100 visitors on your website, If you're turning one of them into a booked client at the end of all of these baby steps, that's pretty awesome. That's pretty good. That's a good business to be in, regardless of photography or any other. But then when we start deciding of what tactics, what projects are working, which ones we want to prioritize, we need to look at these tinier little conversion rates. So back to this one, here how I asked, out of 5 people who booked a in-person call or a meeting, he has 100% conversion rate of people showing up to the meeting. If he didn't say 100%, we would have to fix. There'd be something there that we would want to tweak, right? Because
Yep.
in-person meetings are your most valuable time, and it's like demotivating, demoralizing if you're going and sitting in a coffee shop and nobody shows up, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're crushing that. You've got 100% conversion rate. Awesome. Okay, let's talk about the next conversion rate. Out of those 5, so let's just say out of 10, let's even numbers again. Out of 10 in-person meetings, what percentage of them are booking with you?
70%.
7 out of 10. Awesome.
7 out of 10.
Yeah, another great number. Again, if that number was anywhere below like 50 or 60%, then that means we've got to tweak something. That there's too many people making it to the meeting that shouldn't, that just aren't the right fit. Or how do we structure and do some better, like just connecting with our clients in person, that kind of stuff. Okay. So because you are, I think, so good in person, you talk a lot about other strategies you've been using as bridal shows and being face-to-face with clients is really helpful. I think that there's well, I'm going to get to this question of, should Anthony offer a smaller next date? Like when he's in his current flow, is asking for an in-person meeting, is that too much too soon, right? Are people going, I don't know if I've got a lot on my plate. I'm meeting with other photographers maybe, or I'm talking to them. I don't know if I want to commit to going to actual, like that's a big ask. Sometimes.
It's a big step. It's a big step for anybody to take. Effectively, you're meeting a stranger in a strange coffee shop. So to actually ask them outright, would you like to go for a coffee? It always seems like it's a slightly too forward step. Mm-hmm. So I'm always wondering, do I add in another little step, a phone call, FaceTime call? At least that, I mean, the amount of times I've walked into a coffee shop, and because you've only ever met these people online,
right? You
don't know what they look like. They don't know what you look like. So it can be a bit awkward. Yeah. So I've always wondered, is it better to have a FaceTime call before a coffee shop call?
Here, I think it is, and I'll tell you why. I think it is because anytime we find big steps, and I think the other number to look at, I don't know if you have it offhand, is it'll be in the data also. Like out of all of for every 10 people you offer or you invite to an in-person call, how many are taking you up on that?
So out of 10, I think it's probably 6 or 7 that are actually. But I always think that that's kind of a little bit of a lower number. If I one of the things that I really love doing, and it comes back to this to the very start of the show, it's putting yourself out there. If you're willing to go that little bit further for clients, they really appreciate that. Yep. So it does feel a bit vulnerable putting yourself into that position, but not only for me, but for them as well, for the potential client. They're in a vulnerable position. That it's a lot of money. It's a big decision for them to make. The last thing they want to do is take time out of their day to meet me or anybody in a coffee shop. So I always think that 6 is a bit of a low number. I'd really like to get that to somewhere sort of 8 or 9, because again, I think once you can get them into a coffee shop or can get them into that in-person meeting, I think your chances of them booking you goes up exponentially. So I've
It
always
does.
wanted to increase that number.
Yeah, I think that it's, and also knowing that there's always going to be a part in your funnel that it just happens to be the part where people realize that you're not the right photographer for them.
Sure.
Like that's just gonna, you want it to happen before you act, like before they're supposed to show up.
Yeah.
Luckily, it's happening there where you're not getting them to book a meeting with you
Yeah.
and then just not show. That's a huge bummer that has to be fixed immediately, right?
Yeah.
As long as the drop off is happening in your automation, it means that it's not taking a ton of your attention, of your
Sure.
time. That's the beauty of automations. Is it's like having an assistant you don't have to pay that's doing all of this stuff for you, and people naturally like they opt in or they opt out, and then you can focus your energy instead of working that thing, letting them kind of work themselves out. You spend your energy dumping more leads, getting more people to come to your website, or more partnerships, or more
Sure.
bridal shows, etc.
Yeah.
Okay. That being said, I think adding baby steps is also a good way to spread out. The more spread out, the more steps, just the more they're thinking about you. The more
Of
they're
course.
thinking, the more they're researching, the more they're considering and getting to know you. And more touches over more time always equals more trust.
Sure.
And then whenever you're asking for too much too soon, that's what I think is changing in our market today, is people don't tell you. They just disappear. Right? They don't give you that feedback that, oh, you went too far too fast.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
What good marketing keeps people like curious and they want to learn more. As soon as we overwhelm them, they don't always, even in that moment or on a call or a PDF, they won't reply back and say, I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to read through your 7-page PDF.
Yeah. Exactly.
I didn't quite understand. I've got questions about your 7-page PDF. You
Yeah.
never get people that say that,
No.
because that means they need to tell you that they feel stupid, that they didn't
Absolutely. Yeah.
understand, and they never will do it.
And nobody wants to tell you that they feel silly because they didn't understand something on a PDF or
Right.
or whatever else. But
Totally.
actually meeting someone that's different, or speaking to them on the phone and actually having some kind of conversation with them, that's a game changer.
It is. Okay, so good. So my AirPods are running low because I'm having so much fun. This has been amazing. I think that to wrap things up, guys, with a tactical building this funnel, the best thing I recommend is inside of your sticky emails, having a survey that you built with Tave or whatever studio management tool you're using. And by like the second, third, and then the rest of the emails in sticky email, you say something like this: hey, I hope these tips have been helpful. I'd love to learn more about you now so we can help you make this difficult decision, so that we can let you know about some of our special offers, something special, right? We want to learn a little bit more about you now that we've shared a little about us, and it's like a natural give and take. And like,
Yep.
call it your third date survey. Too many photographers have what I call this third date survey as their contact form on their website, and they wonder why nobody's filling it out. It's because there's too many questions. If you're asking for phone number, budget, location, date, all of this stuff, nobody's going to fill that out until they've already decided to book you somewhere else, right? So
I actually, sorry to interrupt you now. I was just on that point. I was actually told about a year ago by a client that I met at a wedding show. She said, "I've already seen your website, but I was too afraid to put all of those details onto that contact form. I wanted to meet you, I wanted to look at your work, and I wanted to meet you in person, but I was afraid of filling out all my details, my phone number and email address and my name." It makes perfect sense.
I think there's something special about the UK that people are more willing to be more direct.
I think they are.
I'm in Minnesota, and people are way too shy to just be honest with each other. This is so valuable when you have your clients, and I think it says a lot to your ability to make people feel safe and comfortable with you. But
Sure.
that feedback is worth its weight in gold. Because
Absolutely.
most people won't share it. They'll just disappear. Okay, so proves out this point perfectly. Save this third date questionnaire until you've sent 2 or 3 emails out of sticky email. And then you can have that link kind of persistent in your signature or as a PS, something like that that says, hey, click this link and answer a couple questions so we can learn a little bit more about you. Now it's automatically adding your sticky email leads into your next step and whatever
Yep.
other automations you want to build in any other tool. Then the final piece, you should also be in every email, you should have a link to your pricing guide. Because what you want to have happen is at any given moment when your potential client is going, that's right, I meant to look at that pricing guide from Anthony, or now that you mention it, that one tip sheet that he's taught me, it's like I saw something that triggered it and I'm thinking about it. You want them to at any time be able to go to their inbox, search your name or scroll down and find any of your emails, not just the most recent with a big
Sure.
like pricing button, but even in your footer. So in every email, there's a link to your pricing guide, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And possibly a link to a 15-minute phone consult. So it's 2019 investment guide, and you make it like a nice little tappable URL.
Yeah.
Free 15-minute phone chat or chat with me. Click here to chat with me or schedule a call, whatever it is. So that at any given time, they've got a bug and they want to reach out, they can find those links right in every single email you're sending.
Sure.
And then periodically you can make a bigger deal with a bigger button that says, hey, as a reminder, here's my 2019 investment guide with samples of some of our favorite products, et cetera, and link out to that. And then always on that page, you have a link to your 15-minute phone chat.
Sure.
And then
Sounds good.
I think that whether you're building it as an automation or just manual, as soon as you're on a call, you could be on the 15-minute phone chat and you could say, hey, this has been great. How about we meet in person? I can give you a chance to I'd love for you to see my printed albums or to take a look at some of my sample work, which is
Absolutely.
typically the next step so that we can make sure any other questions that might come up between then and there, you get answered, and you get a chance to hang out and talk about your day and help you. I can share with you like past wedding day schedules that have worked really well for us, or I can bring some samples for you of the last 3 venues that I've worked at if you guys don't have a venue picked out. So you want to give them a good, tangible reason to
Sure.
have the meeting with you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
When where it starts to feel weird is like, okay, next step is to schedule a in person. Like,
Yeah.
let's meet in person. Like, it just feels robotic, right?
And
It's gotta,
nobody knows what that is as well. I mean, as photographers, we know what that is, but the average Joe, if I said to a client, "Oh, let's go for an in-person sales meeting," what? I'm not at work now. So, but on the other hand, if you just simply say it's a coffee chat,
yeah,
they also think, well, why are we going? I don't know you, so why would I go for
Right.
a coffee?
yeah.
But if you say, as you say, let's go for a cup of coffee. I can show you some sample albums. We go through some details. That then actually makes it sort of a reason for you going for coffee.
Yeah, you're creating
that they
you're almost
understand.
like creating suspense or tension
Yeah.
or curiosity. So I think that's another good thing I would add to even your phone call link,
Yeah.
and to whenever you talk about it, pick a really specific question or detail or topic that you say, here, click this link so that we can chat about whatever it is you like chatting about.
Right. Yeah.
And so they're like, oh yeah, it would be nice to chat about where like my this month's specials or this last awesome thing I just did for a client. Like make it unique and special. So they're like, I want to hear what I can learn on this free phone call.
Sure.
I'm gonna go schedule it, and then the same thing again for the meeting. This has
Sure.
been so great, Anthony. Every time we chat, it's so value packed, man. I really, really sincerely appreciate you coming on, being vulnerable yourself, getting on
Thank you so
camera,
much. Yeah.
sharing your numbers, your business, your lessons learned with the Sticky audience. It has been an honor. So thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
The final thing I want to wrap this all up with, guys, is just with the system he already has in place, clients, how is the sales session going differently now when they come back after the wedding, based on just being more informed about the products you offer?
So, I mean, I think that's down. I think the increase in money, that's down to sort of the awareness of what I offer in terms of products, and that stems from the pricing guide itself. If you can, I think you said it, sow the seed of potential things products that you sell, that then is carried over to the end, to after the wedding, the wedding shoot. People come back to me and say, oh, I remember seeing, I can't remember where it was, but I remember seeing an acrylic that had this amazing thing. We've just got this space in our lounge, and it would look perfect there. Is that something that you sell? I'll then share the link and I'll say, is this what you were after? Immediately they'll say yes. And then they'll buy one, or order one, or see something, or trigger something else that make think well, we could have that and that, and that's the reason why my prices have increased so much, I think.
And it's not about being pushy. It's not about like twisting arms or any weird promotions. It's just being a good teacher, a good educator about what is available, why it's awesome, planting the seed for them to start thinking about acrylic and artwork in their homes, because that can't happen just in the sales session, right? You've got to plant that seed earlier, and then it naturally just starts to happen.
It sort of sits there waiting for them to realize, and it won't make sense to them straight away.
Right.
But when they see an image, and again, going back to this slideshow I did, somebody suggested one of the final images. I always try and make one of the final images of the slideshow an incredible landscape piece, or some kind of dramatic thing. And the amount of times that somebody stood there and said, you've got to have that as a canvas, or you've got to have that as a wall piece, then that then increases the wedding, the bride and groom's sort of subconscious, and they then have to have that canvas or that wall piece. It's a genius thing to do.
Oh, I love that you just connected those dots. That is so powerful. Well, it's like there's something about human nature, like our biology. We remember firsts and lasts. Like,
absolutely.
Think about the last episode of a show you just watched. Like, we remember the first scene and the last scene. There's something about that. And everybody, especially when emotions are at their peak, when you wrap up that same day slideshow in like 5 minutes and everybody's bawling and there's this great long pause and it plays out and fades to that one awesome landscape. Of course they're gonna have to buy a big print of that, dude.
The amount of times they buy that image, regardless of, I mean, there could be other images towards the end of the day with sunsets or whatever, they automatically go back to that image because their emotions are telling them that was the image that they remember from the wedding day. So that's the one that they always buy. Always.
Yeah. And they're buying not just because now they get to relive not just that beautiful image of where they were when they had that picture taken.
Exactly.
They're also buying they're reliving the memory of sitting there and crying and watching the slideshow every time they walk by it hanging on their wall.
Absolutely. Dude, exactly.
Oh, this has been so great. Thank you so much, Anthony. We're gonna have to have you on again after we hear about how your updated funnel works. I want to hear the difference in numbers, and offering the 15-minute phone call as a baby step to getting in person. This has been awesome. Have a good rest of your day, guys. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you on the next time.